Good evening, councillors. So before we begin with the agenda, can I advise of a few housekeeping issues, please? I'd like to remind all present that under the Council's remote meeting procedures, this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for archive purposes on the Council's website. Can I ask members, apart from Cabinet members and group leaders, to ensure your mics and cameras are switched off, please, until you're invited by myself to speak. For the benefit of those joining online, could you please limit the use of the chat facility to ensure that all discussions take place in the meeting itself, unless, of course, you have audio or camera issues. If any participant has technical difficulties, they should bring this to the attention of the Democratic Services Officer as soon as possible, and they will let me know. Should you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function in the Teams software and wait until invited to speak. If the raise your hand function doesn't work for any reason, you can also wave at me on camera and I will do my best to spot you. With regard to voting on recommendations, if there's no dissent to a recommendation, I will accept the silence as agreement. This meeting will be conducted in line with the standards set out in section 19, appendix 2 of the Council's Constitution, and I kindly ask that all participants adhere to one speaker at a time. The only exception to that will be if I need to interrupt a member for any reason, at which point I'll ask that member to stop speaking. Thank you. So item 1 on the agenda, any apologies for absence, please? Councillor Carroll.
Councillor Nick Wood is having connection difficulties. He's trying to join, but I'm not sure whether he's in the meeting yet.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Burnett.
I'd like to give apologies for Councillor Margaret Wilkinson, please.
Thank you very much. We move on to item 2 on the agenda, roll call and any declarations of interest under the Council's Code of Conduct. And I invite the Operational Manager for Democratic Services to take us through the roll call and any declarations, please.
Good evening, members. I will kick off proceedings with those members present. Councillor Anne Asbury.
Presennol a dim byd I ddatgan.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Councillor Julie Aviett.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Gareth Ball.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Rhiannon Birch.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Bronwyn Brooks.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Gillian Bruce.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Ian Buckley.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Liz Burnett.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Samantha Campbell.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor George Carroll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Christine Cave.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Charles Champion.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Janice Charles.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Millie Collins.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Marianne Kaup.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Pam Drake.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Vincent Driscoll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Anthony Ernest.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Robert Fisher.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Christopher Franks.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Wendy Gilligan.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Russell Godfrey.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Emma Goodjohn.
Present. I'd like to declare a personal interest on item number 6, please.
Which is?
My son is a member of the Vale Youth Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Councillor Ewan Goodjohn.
Present, and I would also like to declare a personal interest on item 6. My brother is Rhys Goodjohn, who is on the Vale Youth Forum and is currently the youth representative for the Forum on Learning and Culture.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Haynes.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Howard Hamilton.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Sally Hanks.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor William Hennessy.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Nick Hodges.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Mark Hooper.
Presennol a dim byd with atgan.
Councillor Catherine Iannucci.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Gwyn John.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Dr Ian Johnson.
And presennol a dim byd with atgan.
Councillor Susan Lloyd Selby.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Belinda Lovelock Edwards.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Julie Lynch Wilson.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Kevin Marnie. Councillor Marnie. No, okay, we'll come back. Councillor Naomi Marshalsea.
Yn bresennol a ddim byd with atgan.
Councillor Michael Morgan.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Jane Norman.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Helen Payne.
Presennol, and I'd like to declare on item 6 a personal and prejudicial interest as I am a trustee of the Vale Glamorgan Youth Forum. And I will withdraw from the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Elliot Payne.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Sandra Perks.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ian Perry.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Joanna Prothero.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ruba Sivignanem.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Caris Stallard.
Yn bresennol a dim byd with atgan.
Councillor Neil Thomas.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Rhys Thomas.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Stephen William.
Yn bresennol a dim byd with atgan.
Councillor Eddie Williams.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Mark Wilson.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Nicholas Wood.
Present and nothing to declare.
And I'll just go back a minute. Councillor Kevin Marnie. Councillor Marnie. Okay, mate, that concludes the roll call.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 3 to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of March 2023.
If I could move the minutes, Mayor.
And I'll second those, Mayor.
Thank you. I see no dissent, so those minutes are approved. Thank you. Agenda item 4, announcements. Oh, I apologise, they appear to have gone quite dark. That's better. So since I last reported to Council back in December, I've attended another 10 events, details of which can be found as usual in the regular mayoral update, which is available on the Council's website. I'd like to thank all those who attended my civic service of Thanksgiving this month. I was delighted to welcome volunteers from a range of charities and community groups, and to be able to thank them for the wonderful work they do across the Vale. It was lovely to receive feedback from them about how valued and special the event made them feel. We're really fortunate to have so many people who give their time and resources in volunteering across the Vale. And again, I extend my sincere thanks to them on behalf of the Vale Council. One example of the wonderful work they do is the work done by the National Coast Watch and RLNI. And it was my privilege this month to receive the Princess Royal, who met with cadets at St. Donat's and received an offshore salute from Barry Lifeboat. It was also a great pleasure to join others in presenting awards to social care staff at a Cardiff and Vale partnership event. Again, we're very fortunate to have such a skilled and committed workforce who go above and beyond in serving those in need of care and support. And I congratulate them again on their achievements and extend my sincere thanks to them on behalf of the Council. Finally, my usual reminder that the Mayor's Foundation is open to receive applications for financial support. Local organisations are encouraged to apply, and details can be found on the Council's website. Thank you. Moving on. Leader, do you have any announcements, please?
I don't this evening, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Anything from Cabinet members? No. Fine. So we move on to agenda item 5 to consider a notion of motion in, I beg your pardon, a notice of motion in respect of becoming a county of sanctuary. And I will hand over to the executive leader of the council, Councillor Burnett, to take us through this, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. In proposing the motion before you today, I firstly want to recognise the warmth and support from people of the Vale in their welcome for those who are experiencing the absolute worst of times. The amazing scenes and warmth of welcome recently witnessed in Llantwit Major when they were targeted by far-right groups, I think was an example to us all. But not only that, but the welcome shown by Vale communities for migrant workers who, over the years, have made a major contribution to our county. The Vale has a history of welcoming people, and I'm sure there are many here far better placed than me to expand upon the rich tapestry of ethnicities and cultures that have enriched the Vale through pilgrimages, seafaring and construction. I've even read that smugglers and pirates have contributed, but perhaps we'd best move on from that. Whilst most cities and counties of sanctuary working towards accreditation do so with an aim of improving outcomes for refugees and asylum seekers, we should also recognise that providing a welcoming environment, challenging discrimination and negative perceptions, and ensuring equality of opportunity is something that we should seek to provide for all Vale residents. Accessible and inclusive services should be a core aim for us all. But life is difficult for many Vale residents, particularly with current cost of living pressures and homelessness, and in addition, bullying, harassment and intimidation that experienced by people for just being themselves is all too common. They too should have sanctuary and refuge, and we will achieve it. And we have to ask, will we achieve it all immediately? No. Will we get everything right? No. Will we mean what we say? Yes. And we will not stop until we rightly deserve County of Sanctuary status. So, Council, the motion is before you, but it is worth repeating the final paragraph that this Council therefore resolves to become a member of the City of Sanctuary Local Authority Network and work towards accreditation as a County Council of Sanctuary for all, and to use its platform to promote welcome and inclusion across the wider community. the wider local community, and I would therefore move.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would like to second the motion, and I'd like to take this opportunity to speak on it this time. The idea of sanctuary and inclusion is valued in all cultures and has been around for thousands of years in one form or another. So the goal of building good and inclusive community remains incomplete without the integration of all people, especially those whose lives are under most pressure. And I include that children, women, older people, refugees, asylum seekers, and those trying to cope with huge and worrisome social pressures, such as homelessness, fear, and intimidation. A county council of sanctuary would encourage and work to build a culture of welcome and hospitality in all contexts, including our hard-to-reach communities. It would reflect the belief that the most effective change comes from a mobilised movement and by people acting collectively for social cohesion and change. A shared vision where many organisations and individuals in the Vale of Glamorgan will work together to build a culture of welcome, hospitality and safety for all people, especially those whose lives are in danger, and live in a place where they can be proud to live in. A county where the skills and cultures of people seeking sanctuary are valued and actively included in local communities, and where they can build relationships with local people as neighbours, friends and colleagues. By working towards our vision, people can demonstrate the desire to build a more just and humane approach to people seeking sanctuary among us. I firmly believe that our vision, I firmly believe that there is a human, legal and moral obligation on us all to provide safety and sanctuary to each other, which is even more important in times of open hostility. In the context of isolation, it is important to do all we can to try and keep people connected and ensure no one feels alone. After all people can be vulnerable at some point in their lives. And I came across an old Celtic proverb, which was in Gaelic, but which I won't even try and pronounce it in Gaelic. And it said, "It is in the shelter of each other that the people live." I therefore am proud to support the motion for the Vale of Glamorgan to become a county council of sanctuary for all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Ian Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add the Plaid Cymru Group's enthusiastic support for this motion tonight. I think it's good that this has been brought to full council to discuss the principles of the position rather than being pushed through a cabinet by executive decree. If passed tonight, I assume that a report will go first to cabinet and then to the Homes and Safe Communities Scrutiny Committee for further work and to put meat on the bones. I would welcome more policy positions being determined like this in future. I think my one concern is that tonight's motion might be seen within the wider context of culture wars being fought about refugees and asylum seekers in the right-wing British media, and that this is an attempt to create a political wedge within the council. I hope that's not the case, as the unfortunate and vulnerable people we currently support and those who receive support in future deserve better than that. Mayor, this motion reminded me quite strongly of a speech I gave to the Welsh Refugee Coalition's Sanctuary at the Senedd event in 2015, where I spoke alongside Ross England from the Conservatives about the implementation of the Syrian refugee scheme at the time. It's fair to say that we disagreed quite a lot on everything. But I was also speaking at a time when Labour had just launched their Controls on Immigration mug, hardly even a dog whistle for racism, and had abstained on the toxic and repressive 2014 Immigration Act, all except for Jeremy Corbyn and 5 others from the Socialist Campaign Group. In contrast, while I was head of policy at Plaid Cymru, we'd launched a paper on migration to Wales, including a focus on deepening the nation of sanctuary concept, giving more powers to the Welsh Government and removing private profit from the asylum system. A few months ago, Mayor, we discussed a similar sanctuary proposal to this at Barry Town Council, with representatives from the Cities of Sanctuary scheme joining us at a working party to discuss the practicalities. I think we learned a lot from that meeting, and Barry Town Council, as the deputy leader here knows, will be taking forward proposals for a town of sanctuary as part of a new globally responsible Barry committee, merging commitments to fair trade, sustainability and town of sanctuary. Amongst those lessons were the need to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, and therefore the necessity to have the capacity to make a meaningful difference to the lives of vulnerable people who are just like us, but forced to leave their homes for reasons beyond their control. As a principal authority, the Vale Council is better placed to meet those pledges, having a greater overall budget, responsibility for housing and support for families, as well as a direct line to both Welsh Government and to the Cardiff and Vale Health Board, who are providing many of the services, particularly around mental health and in different languages. Councillors will be aware I've regularly and publicly asked about our support for refugees and asylum seekers through the various schemes that have developed over the years. The recent announcement of the Eagles Well development is one which I and my group welcome. It's a scheme which goes beyond providing the minimum acceptable support. That's not a criticism of previous efforts, and I have sympathy with the slow development of support mechanisms over the years. The Vale was not one of the 4 refugee dispersal areas in Wales, meaning we did not have everything in place from the get-go, and we particularly learned from our proximity to and joint working with Cardiff in recent years. Now is the time to deepen those commitments and pledges. This evening we are agreeing the principles. I hope this will receive unanimous support tonight, as I look forward to seeing the substance and the actions to which our declaration tonight leads. Gwnaed, nid died, deeds, not words. Diolch yn fawr, Mair.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Rubis Sifinianum, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion allows us to say out loud what we all believe and hope that the Vale is, a welcome and safe place for all those in fear of their safety, well-being, or indeed lives. This motion is about our very humanity and belief that we are a community which looks after everyone, particularly those in most need. And there is much hostile and dehumanising rhetoric elsewhere in the UK, and penalising people and threatening their asylum claims based on how they travel to seek asylum contravenes this right and undermines our history of offering sanctuary to people who need it. I know that in my own ward and in Penarth in general, there's been a great deal of partnership working amongst individuals, faith and community groups to ensure that most recently Syrian and Ukrainian families are welcomed. Above all, this motion contributes to our council's vision, which is about making the Vale not just welcoming to migrants, but also harnessing the opportunities which migration brings to help our economy and communities thrive. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor George Carroll, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, our country has a long and rich history of welcoming people fleeing persecution, and this is perhaps best demonstrated by the generosity that we have shown the people of Ukraine. Families have been warmly welcomed into communities across the United Kingdom, including, I'm proud to say, my own community of Landock. Our response to this crisis, Madam Mayor, is something of which we as Britons can rightly be proud. Discrimination, harassment and intimidation is never acceptable in our society. And while such incidents are thankfully relatively rare, when they do occur, we all have a duty to speak out and to stamp it out. In Llantwit Major recently, Madam Mayor, residents' legitimate grievances about the Eagles school site were used by an extreme outside organisation to sow division. Let's be clear, residents are right to express frustration that a site considered for a much needed medical centre is not being used for that purpose, but we must not allow this issue to be hijacked. And that's why it's vital we have measured, balanced and proportionate conversations on these issues. We must not cede the ground to extremists to dominate the debate. It's for similar reasons, Madam Mayor, that I have concerns with this motion. The City of Sanctuary Local Authority Network, which this council is seeking to join, has promoted a number of extreme policies that I cannot support. For example, they have publicly opposed many proportionate and sensible measures to secure our country's borders, and it is a matter of regret that our asylum system is open to abuse. It is therefore vital for our national security that this is addressed, and this is something that the people of the Vale rightly demand. We should not be denigrating them for doing so. The organisation has vociferously opposed both the Nationality and Borders Bill and the Illegal Migration Bill, which have sought to get a grip on this problem. And it has also accused the UK government of creating hostility scapegoating people of certain nationalities, and of passing anti-refugee laws. This highly political and partisan stance risks sowing division rather than unity, and this authority should think very carefully before associating itself with it. To me, Madam Mayor, it is not the right approach to take, and I cannot support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gwynjon, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the leader of Lambeth First Independence, we have, as a group, supported Ukrainian refugees coming to Eagleswell Road to use temporary accommodation. There was never any hesitation in our minds. These people have gone through absolute hell in the face of war, and we are fully supportive. We have stood up strongly against the Patriotic Alternative Group, who have tried to take over Lambeth Major with their racist behaviour, and quite simply, we have stood up against this right-wing group, and Lambeth Major has come out and shown. They have shown how they care for people, and how Lambeth Major has been a town of sanctuary for many, many years. I would remind everyone tonight that Lambeth Major took in Belgian refugees in the First World War when they arrived in Lambeth Major in 1914 through to 1919. We have demonstrated throughout the years that we have welcomed people to Lambeth Major. The rumours of a health centre will not be built anymore are unfounded, and the work that we are doing is still on track. Make no mistake about it, we are supporting this motion tonight, and we will oppose any racist behaviour in our town. I attended a meeting this afternoon, and the group are very strong in opposing any right-wing activity in our town in future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Janice Charles, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is clearly a very sensitive subject, and it is vital we discuss things in a mature and balanced manner. While it is right we offer refuge to those fleeing genuine persecution, there are clearly many cases where asylum protections are abused. This is why we should not be joining an organisation which claims such abuse does not occur. Let's be clear, Mayor, it does. And that's why we need measures to tackle this. If we pretend such measures aren't necessary, which the City of Sanctuary Network has done, then we risk leaving the field clear for unpleasant groups and individuals to dominate the debate. This cannot be an option. We must listen to people's concerns, not accuse them of scapegoating. This is an extreme and diverse stance, and we must resist it. So I will not be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Can I remind councillors, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, that if you're invited to speak, could you please switch your camera off, switch your camera on while you're speaking, please, and then switch your camera off once you've finished speaking. Councillor Neil Thomas, please. Thank you.
Sorry, apologies, Mayor. It's not working on my computer at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor, for clarifying that. Councillor Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm proud of the people of the Vale of Glamorgan who've opened their hearts, their homes and their communities to people in need and people fleeing oppression and threat. This motion recognises the great response and generosity of people and seeks to build on that fantastic base and make the Vale of Glamorgan a welcoming, inclusive and supportive sanctuary for all, including our own people with protected characteristics who can, sadly, encounter negative and negligent attitudes from some. I fully support this motion and commend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stephen Haynes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry for the delay. It's getting the computer to work properly. Yes, I, unlike most people, haven't got a prepared speech on this, sadly, so I try not to ramble too much. I have a bit of a problem with this motion, mainly because this county as sanctuary is not about being nice to people. It's about joining a group that has a charter and it's a political charter. Therefore, the rights of this council, you're effectively trying to hand over to a third party. You may agree with them, but I think this council should have the rights to make its decisions, not some other group which you're going to sign up to. Secondly, you have a legal right. We have a legal right to house and look after refugees. We don't need to virtue signal that we are or are not doing that. And if we need to virtue signal, I think our problem is that we're probably not fulfilling our legal obligations. So for those reasons, and a few others, to be honest, which I won't go into, I don't think I can support this motion, sadly, and I would hope other people would think also. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ian Perry, please.
Hi there, good evening. Some years ago, I was working for a very large international money transfer company, and at that time, Romania joined the European Union. Now, we had allegations today of many cases of abuse of the asylum system, and there's obviously a lot of media whipping up of hatred for people who migrate. I've lived in several countries, and I'm glad that I didn't experience what people coming here have to experience when I've gone to other countries. So it always makes me feel uncomfortable when people talk about them, because I was a them when I was living overseas. I listened to what Stephen just said, and yeah, virtual signaling is a problem. Now, when Romania joined the EU, transactions of money from the UK to Romania plummeted. The reason being, a lot of people here were here from Romania unregistered, not paying tax, being exploited. When Romania joined the European Union, people living here could then go home. They didn't need to transfer, they could register, they could pay tax properly. What we tend to do in the UK, and let's just say a certain person who led a couple of political parties stirred it up and made himself a lot of money and stood on beaches and pointed at small boats. The whole conversation has been toxic to put money in the pockets of a few wealthy people. And instead of challenging people of great wealth, we are challenging people with nothing. So we've trapped people in this country, we're not keeping them here. And the border fiasco at Dover is a result of stupidity maybe, but people getting the wrong end of the stick. So I'm not happy that it's virtual signalling, and the reason being is that recently I challenged the Vale Council as to whether we had discharged our public sector equality duty. I was told a robust equality impact assessment had been carried out, and therefore the public sector equality duty had been discharged. After the meeting, I asked to see the robust equality impact assessment. On getting no reply, I asked again. I was told the two people responsible for that equality impact assessment had left the employment of the Vale Glamorgan Council and it can't be found. Therefore, it doesn't exist, and therefore the public sector equality duty hasn't been discharged. So I am very concerned that this will just lead to more tick boxing and targeting numbers rather than actually delivering improved experiences for people. So I'm still rather much on the fence on this, and I will just leave my ramblings there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to fully support this motion. I think it's a very positive step forward for the Vale of Glamorgan to actually want to be a county of sanctuary. If we think about what this county is built on, it's agriculture and the docks, and the number of people that have passed through those docks that have made this county as profitable and as rich as it is, which is what we're always going on about, how rich the Vale of Glamorgan is. Obviously not for everybody, but I fully support this because I think, you know, we have a duty of care for people. We have basic human rights for people, that they need to have somewhere where they feel safe, where they can thrive, where they're cared for, you know, where we want them to succeed and to, you know, sort of help our county to grow, to develop more knowledge about the outside world, to not be parochial, to be a better, more part of the you know, sort of the wider world, if you like. And I think, you know, we're talking about people who are coming here who are not perhaps, you know, asylum seekers or refugees. You need safe passages for that to happen. You need to make sure there's safe routes for people to come into the UK. And I think that's another point for another time, that one. But I definitely, you know, fully support this motion. And I think it's puts the Vale of Glamorgan in good light, actually, and the people of the Vale of Glamorgan who fully support, you know, people having somewhere safe to live and to thrive in the facilities and the warmth of the people who live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Michael Morgan, please.
Yes, yeah. I am entirely in support of this motion, but I'm concerned about some of the comments made by those who've spoken against it, and perhaps that they haven't taken time to understand how the application process actually works. This is not something that happens overnight. There are two phases that we go through, and if you read it up, it's all on their website. We are seeking to become non-awarded members, which means that we sign up to the vision and values of the City of Sanctuary. But we don't become an awarded member until we've gone through an award appraisal process and gained recognition. And just picking up on what Councillor Ian Johnson said, this gives us time to go through scrutiny, to put flesh on the bones, and to put the application through fully. I think it would be very, very poor show to turn down this motion tonight when it is something so important. We're not signing up to anything tonight. We're saying we're going to have a go and work towards it. And those who want to speak against it will have plenty of time to do so and to argue their case. But certainly tonight we need to support this motion. I think it would be a very poor show on this council if this motion was not carried through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Helen Payne, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to second some things that Councillor Ian Johnson has said about the process and the fact that we put this through Barry Town Council. It's a very considered thing. It takes time. But I just want to say something about, I'm a Barry girl, and my ancestry is from lots of places, but not all of it from Barry. So Barry was built on the backs of immigrants from all over the world. So everybody comes from somewhere and everybody has the right to a safe and secure home. So voting against this motion is indicates everything that we're about as a council. We welcome people from all over the world, and I support this motion fully.
Thank you, Councillor. So I think I see no more hands. I think everybody has had the opportunity to speak on this. So just to invite Councillor Lisbonette to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all who spoke in that. Some very eloquent and sensible comments here. I'm glad that Councillor Johnson recognised the reason that we brought this to Cabinet rather than taking it through council rather than taking it through Cabinet, because this is something that is important for us as a council. It says what our values are and what our principles are and what we're working towards. And I think it's important that we know everybody's stance on this, and for that reason I will be asking for a recorded vote this evening. Recently, when we were talking about the Eagleswell situation, I gave a briefing to elected representatives, and I was delighted to be joined by Helen Vachen, who was very well versed in all the issues, and we had a very constructive conversation there. And one of the things that was discussed during that meeting is that you can't pick and choose which refugees you want to support. You can't say, well, this refugee's nice and that one's not nice. If they're refugees, they are welcome and they are worthy of our support. And so I can see little tones of that creeping into discussion. I will reiterate what Councillor John said about Eagleswell. Using words like concerns that Eagleswell is not being used for that purpose over a health centre. We have said right the way along the line that we continue to have conversations with the Health Board about their strategic plan for the Western Vale. The Health Board have said that we are in discussions with them about their strategic plan for the Western Vale. This morning, I had another meeting with the Health Board where the strategic plan for the Western Vale was pressed. And I really don't know where that's come from in using a site that currently has no defined plans as per a planning application for a meanwhile use for temporary accommodation that can be moved elsewhere once there is a plan. I really don't know how on earth that comment can be made this evening if it's not just for more scaremongering. Thank you, Gwyn, for your comments. I think that Llantwit Major has been an example to us all in their stance, and the words of what do you say when you meet a far right protester, and the answer is, would you like a Welsh cake, will stay with me for many years to come. I think the warmth and the friendliness shown by Llantwit Major was absolutely wonderful. There's been a lot of things about, oh, we shouldn't go and join that network. That network's not a nice network. Well, actually, you learn in networks. There are an awful lot of other councils and cities that have already gone through this process. And a network is just that. It helps you to formulate ideas. And if you actually read the proposed motion, you will see that actually we've already tweaked ours. And in conversation with that network, I said we are going to be welcoming to refugees, but actually we are going to be a place of sanctuary, refuge and support for anyone that is facing difficult times. I think it's brilliant to be criticised for preparing a speech, but I'll leave that one there. But what I would say is, in talking to one of our staff recently about the concept, about the idea and what whether or not it was something that we could take forward, because it will mean work from an awful lot of us going forward, of all parties, if you're interested. And the member of staff said to me, don't do it unless you mean it. Don't do it unless this is going to make a difference to people. And they said that they'd been talking to a young person who they were supporting and had said, this is what we're going to put in place, and that's what we're going to put in place, and this is how things are going to change. And he said, please just don't do it. He said, because things don't change for people like me. Isn't that an awful thing, that a young person in the Vale might think that when they're facing difficult times, that things won't change for people like them? Now, it might not change immediately, but if we vote on this and if we pass this tonight, then I can guarantee I will work my hardest alongside anybody else that's in to make sure that things do change. So, Council, I again confirm my support for this motion and move the motion again.
Thank you, Executive Leader. And Councillor Burnett has called for a recorded vote in relation to this issue. Can I see whether or not there is support for that, please? Yes, thank you very much. So we will now move to a recorded vote. And again, if I can ask the Operational Manager for Democratic Services to take us through that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So the recorded vote relates to the matter set out in the motion, which is to become a member of the organisation. Can I take votes in favour for the motion, commencing with Councillor Anne Asprey?
For the motion.
Councillor Julie Aviett?
For the motion.
Councillor Gareth Ball?
For the motion.
Councillor Rhiannon Birch?
For.
Councillor Bronwyn Brooks?
For the motion.
Councillor Gillian Bruce? Councillor Bruce?
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm against.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Ian Buckley?
For the motion.
Councillor Liz Burnett?
For the motion.
Councillor Samantha Campbell?
For the motion.
Councillor George Carroll?
Against.
Councillor Christine Cave?
Against.
Councillor Charles Champion?
I believe Mayor Councillor Champion has left the meeting. He's had to leave and he's put a message in the chat. Thank you.
Councillor Janice Charles?
Against the motion.
Councillor Millie Collins?
For the motion.
Councillor Marianne Kaup?
For the motion.
Councillor Pam Drake?
For the motion.
Councillor Vincent Driscoll?
Against the motion.
Councillor Anthony Ernest?
Against.
Councillor Robert Fisher?
Against.
Councillor Chris Franks?
For.
Councillor Wendy Gilligan?
For. Support the motion.
Councillor Russell Godfrey?
Strongly against.
Councillor Emma Goodjohn?
For the motion.
Councillor Ewan Goodjohn?
For the motion.
Councillor Stephen Haynes?
Against.
Councillor Howard Hamilton?
For the motion.
Councillor Sally Hanks?
For the motion.
Councillor William Hennessy?
Against the motion.
Councillor Nick Hodges?
For.
Councillor Mark Hooper?
For.
Councillor Catherine Iannucci?
For the motion.
Councillor Gwyn John?
For the motion.
Councillor Ian Johnson?
For Blythe. For.
Councillor Susan Lloyd Selby?
For.
Councillor Belinda Lovelock Edwards?
Strongly for the motion.
Councillor Julie Lynch Wilson?
For the motion.
Councillor Kevin Marnie?
More virtue signalling against.
12.
Councillor Naomi Marshalsea?
For.
Councillor Michael Morgan?
For the motion.
Councillor Jane Norman?
For the motion.
Councillor Helen Payne?
Obliged. For the motion.
Councillor Elliot Penn?
Strongly in favour of the motion.
Councillor Sandra Perks?
For the motion.
Councillor Ian Perry?
Oops. Yeah, I've read, I've listened, and as long as it's not a tick box exercise, I'm strongly for the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Joanna Prothero?
Definitely for this motion.
Councillor Ruba Sivignaunum?
4.
Councillor Caris Stallard,
Or Blythe? 4.
Councillor Neil Thomas,
Enthusiastically for the motion.
Councillor Rhys Thomas,
Against.
Councillor Stephen William,
Or Blythe.
Councillor Eddie Williams,
For the motion.
Councillor Mark Wilson,
For the motion.
and Councillor Nicholas Wood.
Against.
Thank you. I'll just do some totting up.
Just while you're adding that up, I can see that Debbie Miles wishes to speak. Would you like to do that now, please, Debbie?
Oh, it's just to assist my colleague. I have 38 for and 13 against the motion.
I agree.
Mayor, can I just interject, just let all present know, and for the viewers at home, that Councillor Marnie has joined the meeting, but I've had to set him up on a colleague's laptop, so you will see him under PW. Okay, that's for the records. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Given the outcome of the recorded vote, the motion is overwhelmingly carried and supported by this council. Thank you. We move on to agenda item 6, and before we do that, following Councillor Payne's declaration of interest, personal and prejudicial, Councillor Payne, I understand you need to leave the meeting, so just to ensure that you're clear about the arrangements for you rejoining, could Democratic Services officers just explain that? That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, Councillor Payne, if you would just like to leave the meeting, and I will send you a request to join invitation, which you'll just hear coming through your machine. If you wouldn't mind rejoining, then that would be the simplest way of doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. So is there confirmation that Councillor Payne has left?
Shall I take the next? I think Councillor Payne has left because she's
Yes.
not on the
Yes.
list, is she?
Thank you. Just waiting for confirmation from officers.
So I can confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we move on to agenda item 6. This is reference in relation to youth representation on Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Birch, please.
Thank you. At the meeting, it was discussed and it was decided without dissent that instead of the recommendations for one of the delegates coming from one organisation, that we would have 2 delegates coming from each of the 2 youth organisations. And I would like to propose an amendment so that this situation should be reviewed in 2 years. So if you look at the recommendations, that the report be noted, that Scrutiny Committee recommend to full council the membership of the Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee be amended to include 2 non-voting seats allocated to representatives from the Vale Youth Forum and the Vale Youth Council, and that following approval of recommendation 2 by full council to the membership of the Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee, the council's constitution be amended accordingly. And a 4th recommendation, that this situation should be reviewed in 2 years' time. I'd like to move those recommendations, please.
And formally second, Mayor.
Thank you. I see no hands in relation to that agenda item, and therefore the recommendation with the amendment is approved. Thank you, councillors. And if we can just wait for one moment while we bring Councillor Payne back into the meeting, then we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you. Councillor Thomas, you have your hand up. Just one moment, if I may. If I can just confirm, is Councillor Payne rejoined us, please?
Yes,
I'm present
Councillor
now.
Councillor Payne has rejoined. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thomas, did you want to speak on an issue?
Sorry, I was just anticipating the next agenda item.
Your keenness is commendable. We move on to agenda item 7, which is nomination of the mayor-elect and deputy mayor-elect for the municipal year 2023-24. I'll first of all take nominations for the mayor-elect, please. So if I can have nominations for mayor-elect. Councillor Marshalsea.
Hi Susan, I would like to nominate Julie Aviat for Mayor. As councillors, we all work alongside many individuals who all contribute to making the life of people in our wards and across the Vale a little easier, a little better. Since getting to know Julie, I believe she is the right person to represent us as Mayor. Even before becoming a councillor, she worked in and for the community she lived. Her honesty, integrity, kindness and hardworking nature shines from her, and she is an asset to the council. Her compassion and empathy towards fellow residents is key to making her a fabulous mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder for that nomination, please? Councillor Lovelock-Edwards.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to formally second that nomination.
Thank you very much. I see no other hands, therefore can I assume that there are no other nominations for mayor-elect? In which case, thank you. And Councillor Julie Aviat is duly nominated as mayor-elect, and that will go forward to our annual meeting. Thank you very much. We move on to the next part of this process, which is nominations for deputy mayor-elect, please. Councillor Neil Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about the anticipating this. I'd like to nominate my fellow ward councillor, Elliot Penn. He's long had an active involvement in the community, though much of it has been downhill. As a founder and organiser of the Penarth Downhill Derby, for the information of members of the wider Vale who may not be aware of that, this is one of the most popular events in our annual calendar. He's well known across the Vale, and I believe he'll make an excellent deputy mayor and representative of this council.
Thank you, Councillor. And do we have a seconder for that nomination? Councillor Sivanyanam, thank you.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we have one nomination that's been seconded. Are there any other nominations? No, in which case, thank you, councillors. Councillor Elliot Penn is duly nominated as Deputy Mayor-elect, and again, that will go forward to Council's annual meeting for a formal vote shortly. So thank you. We move on to agenda item 8, use of the Chief Executive's emergency powers. This item is for noting, and can I invite the Executive Leader of the Council to take us through it, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, agenda item 8 is to notify Council of the use of emergency powers by the Chief Executive since the last report on the 5th of December 2022. This is a regular housekeeping report that comes before us. On this occasion, if you look under paragraph 2.1, there is actually only one occasion, and that is in relation to extension of flexible retirement for an individual for a further 6 months from June 1st of June to 30th November 2023, mainly in terms of providing extra resilience within a team at a time of change. So I would therefore move we note.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I see no hands, therefore that recommendation is approved. And we move on to consider reports of the Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal and Democratic Services. Agenda item 9, amendments to the Council's constitution. This item is for approval. And again, if I can invite the Executive Leader, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a report, again, a regular report in relation to any tweaks and changes that we need to make to the Council's constitution. In essence, this lays out 2 amendments to officer delegations, which firstly are in paragraph 2.2 to the report, and that's regulations. It's relating to submission of Regulation 3 planning applications, so that's planning applications that are linked to the council. In relation to building regulation applications and sustainable drainage applications, because obviously we've already got the delegation for the planning side of things. And then also in relation to paragraph 2.3 and 2.4 of the report, to provide officers with the necessary delegations in relation to cycle tracks to enable enforcement action. That's if people are parking on them and blocking them. I had a problem with that last week. I wonder if it would relate. But the report also identifies an amendment to the Council's contract procedure rules at paragraph 2.6 of the report, in line with the decision by Cabinet in February to broaden existing tender evaluation criteria to incorporate an element of social value, so that if this council is looking to deliver social value as part of its procurement, then this amendment would deal with that. And so, as you said, Mayor, the recommendation is that we approve those changes to the Constitution and that the Constitution be amended accordingly. And I would move.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. There's no dissent, so those recommendations are approved. And we moved on to agenda item 10, Scrutiny Committee's annual report for 2021-22. And I invite Councillor Neil Thomas to talk to this item, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. As the chair of the Scrutiny Chairs and Vice Chairs Group, the report being presented to Council today is the Scrutiny Committee's annual report for 21-22. The annual report has been produced in accordance with section 7.4.4 of the Council's Constitution, which states that scrutiny committees must report annually to full Council on their workings with the recommendations for their future work programmes and amended working methods if appropriate. The purpose of this report is to inform members and the wider audience of the main purposes and aims of the Council's scrutiny function and of key areas of work undertaken by our 5 scrutiny committees over the period of the 21-22 municipal year. Due to 22 being an election year, presenting this particular iteration of the report to the Council has been a little delayed, but preparations are on track to submit the Scrutiny Annual Report for 22-23 to full Council in September 23, as per the reporting schedule prior to the pandemic. Previous versions have been received by Council in December 21. The report has been consulted on by members of the 5 scrutiny committees who have had the opportunity to comment and contribute to its content. Scrutiny is only as good as its scrutineers, and it is incumbent on all committee members to fully read and understand the reports well in advance and have the confidence to engage with officers prior to meetings if need be to clarify points. Democratic have asked me to mention that a scrutiny impact survey will be coming out to all scrutiny members in the next few weeks. This is important to get your views, and Democratic are very keen that you complete this as soon after you receive it as possible. Members are advised that the annual report is reported to Council as opposed to it requiring approval, Therefore, I would like to move this to be received by council as per the report. Thank you.
And I second that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
councillors. The recommendation to receive the report is therefore approved. And we move on to agenda item 11, to consider proposals from the executive in relation to the council's policy framework and budget. In this instance, Vale Public Services Board draft wellbeing plan for 2023 to 28. This item is for approval, and can I invite the executive leader to take us through it, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm absolutely delighted to bring this forward. It's a culmination of a tremendous amount of work. I think everybody has had input into it through scrutinies. Our officers have been working at the Public Services Board with not only our statutory partners, but all the other members of it. They've taken it through their various committees. And then in the final stages, it went back to Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee on the 15th of March. So everybody's had a look at it. Our statutory partners on the Public Services Board have agreed this already, so it's coming to us before it goes back to the Public Service Board on, I think, the 3rd of May. For final ratification before publication. But what I would like to share with you is that we've just received the full approval from Natural Resources Wales on this. And just to read you one paragraph that came from that, it will be publicly available, the whole letter. And it says, "This is one of the strongest plans across Wales. It is highly ambitious while realistic, showing a clear understanding of the Vale's opportunity and issues. The identified work streams and steps are designed to allow a joined-up approach towards the 3 objectives for environment, health and equity." And the letter goes on, it's worth a read. I think that demonstrates the work of all in the council as well as our partners, but particularly I would like to thank officers who have worked so hard in pulling this together, because we lead on the Public Service Board, and I chair it. But so on that, this report has come to us today for approval, and without further ado, I would therefore move approval.
And I'll second that report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you both. I see no dissent, and therefore that recommendation is approved. And we move on to agenda item 12, to inform the council of the use of urgent decision procedures under Article 15(14) of the Constitution. This item is for noting. Councillor Burnett, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would propose these as a result of use of the urgent decision procedure, and they are for noting. I would therefore move we note en bloc.
And I'll second those en bloc.
Thank you again. I see no dissent, therefore that recommendation is approved and the items are noted. That's fine. I saw a hand raised and hastily taken down again, which is absolutely fine. We move on to item 13, to receive questions and answers pursuant to section 419(2) to 419(7) of the council's constitution. So councillors, there are 12 questions from councillors before us tonight. Once councillors have heard the response to the question they've submitted, can I ask you to please indicate in the usual way if you want to ask one supplementary question, or I will move on. You can raise your hand virtually or you can wave at me from the screen. Can I respectfully remind councillors that any supplementary question must arise out of your original question or the reply given, or I won't allow it. Multiple questions, speeches and statements are not allowed. Question 1 is from Councillor Iannucci to the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services regarding street safety and sexual harassment. Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you very much for your question, Kathleen and Councillor Iannucci. This is my reply. I am pleased to advise that officers are currently in the process of working with partners to identify safe spaces in the local community. This involves liaising with local businesses, community groups, and with the specialist domestic abuse service to identify such spaces. This is in line with the Ask Me campaign, aimed at raising awareness within the community of support arrangements that are available. Advice and information will also continue to be shared through our social media sites. In addition, street safety and sexual harassment also features within the Violence Against Women, Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Strategy 2328, and that is in the process of being finalised for final approval from all statutory agencies. Further work streams and support actions will arise from this strategy, and the details of this will be made available in due course. Finally, can I advise that I've already had discussion with Chief Executive as to how we can further raise the profile of this important aspect and how can we engage with the relevant scrutiny committee in the work. Thanks.
Councillor Iannucci.
Thanks, Mark. I have had a lot of really good conversations with the young women at the Vale Youth Service and the Her Voice Wales team about the issues they've been facing. And we are going to do a walk around Caddock with my fellow ward members so that the young women can point out all the areas they think, well, that they feel
Unknown
unsafe.
participant is now exiting.
So just would like to send the invitation to yourself. We've got a local PCSO who has said they'd be pleased to join us. But if you yourself and officers would like to come with us, so that the young women can show us firsthand.
Yes, I would like to come, absolutely, and I will set that invitation in due course. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next question from Councillor Dr Johnson to the Cabinet Member for Education, Arts and the Welsh Language regarding public art commissions since 2021. Councillor Birch, please.
Thank you for the question. A wide variety of public art projects have been commissioned by the Council since 2012. These include outdoor lighting schemes, murals, hoarding panels, pavement art, stained glass windows, gates and railings, art trails, and new art and craft spaces within community facilities such as libraries. Artwork has also been integrated into new outdoor fitness equipment, skate park ramps, climbing walls, splash pads and bench seating. Such projects have helped to facilitate placemaking by enhancing the quality and attractiveness of public open spaces and public realm within the authority. Other artworks have been designed around nature, such as the bee hotels in the Arcot Triangle, Penarth. Public art money has also been used towards new community facilities, such as Bellevue Pavilion and the new shelter on Cliff Hill, Penarth. Public artworks are located throughout the Vale and have been funded from a number of sources, including Section 106 money, Barry Regeneration Fund, COVID Recovery Town Centre Grant, Heritage Lottery funding, Barry Making Waves, Transforming Towns funding, and Active Travel funding. The Council has been particularly successful in obtaining Section 106 contributions for public art from new qualifying developments in accordance with the 1% of build costs policy set out in the Public Art and Planning Obligations Supplementary Planning Guidance. Since 2012, some 1.2 million of Section 106 money has been used to fund new public art projects. Full details of the Section 106 public art contributions received since 2012 and implementation progress is contained in the Section 106 annual reports and appendices available on the Council's website.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much for that response, which was both very detailed, but also I think I'd like to have a list of that if that's available somewhere. But you mentioned murals within that answer, Councillor Birch. Have you had any discussions with perhaps the Cabinet Member for Sustainable Places about a campaign using murals as part of regeneration of town centres?
I can honestly say no, I haven't, but I'm quite happy to have that conversation at any point with Councillor Brooks.
That's fine with me.
Thank you, councillors. Next question from Councillor Johnson to the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Sustainable Development regarding bus services at the Barry Docks Public Transport Interchange. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Johnson. The Barry Dock multimodal transport interchange, which is funded by the Cardiff Capital Region and Welsh Government capital grants, is part of a £50 million programme of schemes. And then these have been developed then with the Regional Transport Authority, commonly known as the RTA, to support the implementation of the South Wales Metro. So, as you know, Dr. Ware, the interchange is intended to cater for different types of transport, including train, bike, taxis, cars, as well as the bus. The fully financially supported 88 bus service, which is contracted to Adventure Travel, was one service that was earmarked to serve the interchange. In addition, Cardiff Bus has been considering which of their Barry services could run into and out of the interchange following discussions with our officers. However, the news that the Bus Emergency Scheme, known as BES, funding is due to end in July does mean any additionality to bus services that were proposed previously is now on hold while the post-BES network forms. So the interchange will be a key destination point for the new bus network, and as such, bus operators will see it as an attractive option to link bus with other sustainable modes of transport. It is my hope that by making improved links and infrastructure available, it will support bus provision in its own right. Just to go on and add a note about BES funding, the end of BES funding is a concern for all bus services in the Vale of Glamorgan and indeed the whole of Wales. And our officers are working with Transport for Wales, Welsh Government and bus operators to get a clear indication of what the commercial bus network will look like post-BES. Once this is known, we will be in a much better position then to consider how, as a local authority, we can enhance the network further by filling those gaps with the resources we have available. But as I state at the moment, is very much on that discussion table, and there are no firm decisions as yet. But I can assure you that officers and myself and the leader as well are working very, very hard to make sure that the Vale of Glamorgan is very much part of that discussion. Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much for that response, Councillor Brooks. I know you're as concerned as I am to ensure that the transport interchange is a success and that it doesn't become a white elephant. Obviously, the funding, as you said, a lot of that funding came from Welsh Government. What additional pressure can you, this council, WLGA, put on Welsh Government to ensure that additional funding is made available to make sure so that buses can be an adequate replacement for the car? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think all I can do is reiterate the work that we're doing. We're at every meeting. Officers then if they keep separate meetings, they're keeping myself updated. I sit on the Regional Transport Authority, and we're very, very much on that agenda, and we're at those meetings and we make our views and fighting. We are the voice for the Vale of Glamorgan, and we will keep that pressure up. We've had meetings as well with the Minister, that's the Regional Transport as a whole, and those are ongoing. So we will very much be part of that.
Question from Councillor Johnson to the Executive Leader regarding garden waste. Councillor Burnett, please.
Oops, hang on. I've just gone and lost my papers. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Councillor Johnson. The estimate of 20% was calculated as a minimum service level of subscribers necessary to achieve the budget saving that had been attributed to the service for this year, the coming year, 2023-24. It wasn't an estimation of how many subscribers would actually take up the service. It was a sort of break-even level. The service is hopeful that the number of subscribers will be significantly higher than 20% and therefore generate more income than initially forecast, which will ensure that the budget savings for the recycling and waste service for 2023-24 are met. However, this is a new service and the level of subscription can't accurately be forecast until it's operated for at least one season. The service expects the majority of residents to either take up the subscription service and or home compost and potentially take it directly to one of the council's local household waste recycling centres.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much for the response. And the leader will remember that I suggested that 20% was a very low estimate of the take-up. But I will be honest and say that I'm slightly concerned by what seems to be a lack of preparation for 2/3 of the households that currently use the service not using the service in future. Have we allocated any resources to dealing with fly tipping issues regarding garden waste or anything else that might come up from the non-collection of this due to people not taking up the subscription option, but also not wanting to either home compost or take it down to the tip themselves?
I think that one thing is that I actually have a lot of faith in the residents of the Vale to, if they decide not to take up the service, to act responsibly in dealing with their garden waste. Most of the stuff that we currently see is commercial fly tipping, and we do have an environmental crime team that will look into areas such as that, and they are successful in gaining prosecutions. So if there is an upsurge, but I do have every faith in the people of the Vale, in actually making an informed decision, and I think that it will we will find that they are that they do take it up, because at the end of the day it is a very reasonably priced service that collects from your door, and you get a service right through the winter as well.
Thank you. Next question from Councillor Johnson to the Executive Leader regarding equality impact assessments. Executive Leader, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillor Johnson. Yes, equality impact assessments, something very close to my heart. The equality impact assessment for the revenue budget proposals overall is published as part of the Cabinet report at Appendix G. And the impact assessment was updated during the finalisation of the proposals following receipt of the final Welsh Government settlement. The Council is required to publish equality impact assessments where it is clear from the assessment that the likely impact on the authority's ability to meet the general equality duty is substantial. The 33 screening proposals that are referred to do not meet this threshold, and as such, these have not been published as a matter of course. The Council's work to respond to the Audit Wales recommendations has commenced, with a review of the equality impact assessment process being underway. And this has involved an officer workshop, discussion at the Strategic Insight Board, and a dedicated meeting of the Equalities Consultative Forum. This review will consider the way that the Council takes forward the important work on equality impact assessments, both procedurally and culturally. I've asked officers to provide updates on individual savings proposals as part of quarterly financial monitoring reports, with any equality impact assessments being reported as part of this work, and or when individual matters are considered by Cabinet.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you for the response. I appreciate your interest in this field. And obviously, the appendix in the budget is a broad-based equality impact assessment, rather than looking in detail at the 33 areas that were identified. As you all know, the Audit Wales say that it's not easy to find published equality impact assessments. There's often limited monitoring of impact on the public sector equality duty by organisations, and there's also not much challenge to equality impact assessments. And obviously, if they're not being published, in places that people might find them.
Councillor Johnson, forgive me for interrupting you. Can I ask you to get to your question?
Madam Mayor,
Thank you.
What is the process, leader, for councillors being able to access and challenge equality impact assessments?
I would say the first one, and it's something that I've commented on already. That's what scrutiny is there for. I would expect our officers in bringing a report to scrutiny, and also the cabinet members who are bringing those reports to scrutiny, should be able to talk through what the equality impact assessment considerations are for that report. Because for most reports, you can write a document, and this is a lot of the issues that we face in discussing the Wales Audit's report, is that there are subtle nuances within equalities assessments, and as Wales Audit have said, that it can turn out like a tick box, but you can say, well, you've ticked those boxes, but actually, is it worth anything? And that's why I said it's something very close to my heart. I was involved in supporting organisations when they piloted the equality duty at the start. I was also involved in running focus groups for some of the more disadvantaged groups that were contributing to that equality duty. And some of the outcomes of those are still with me, because we still haven't achieved the outcomes that we should have done. And this is Wales per se, in terms of those equality duties. But I think that it's only, and I would be happy to ask for more equality training, it is only by effective scrutiny and discussion of equality impacts that we will be able to deliver services which, as we discussed earlier this evening, are accessible to all and inclusive of all, as we go forward as a council. So, any suggestions you have on that, I'm listening, because I said this is something that I really want to do effectively.
Thank you. Next question is from Councillor Cowpe. This is question 6 to the Cabinet Member for Social Care and Health regarding a Facebook post. Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cowpe. I'm really pleased with the outcome of the recent inspection, which was indeed a glowing endorsement of the way the service is operating. At a time when our services are under great pressure, it's only right that we publicly celebrate the successes of our staff. Following the publication of the Care Inspection in Wales report, the Council issued a news release, published the story on its website, and shared this online via Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We also shared the success internally via our intranet, and the Chief Executive referenced it in his weekly email to all staff. The post referred to has reached more than 10,000 people via Facebook. It received 134 reactions where people can like or dislike a post, and the majority of which were positive. Although I note that the majority of actual comments were negative. While I'm not dismissing the comments made in response to the post, we should recognise that those who have strong negative opinions are much more likely to engage in this manner. However, as these comments represent the views of only around 1% of those who saw the post, we should be wary of taking them as representative. CIW included the views of people who actually use the service to inform their inspection report. The accusations you reference in your question are completely baseless. And while it's disappointing to hear them repeated and heard again in this meeting, it does underline for me why it's so important that the Council uses its communications channels to champion the efforts of our hard-working staff and challenge misinformation like this, which is sadly increasingly prevalent online. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cowpe.
Thank you, Mayor. There were 14 recommendations in that report, so I don't agree that it was a glowing report. And I'm wondering what the Council are doing to support staff in social services who were subject to the allegations, be it true or not, that were in the public domain?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll respond to that. Thank you, Councillor Cobb. I actually read through the Facebook responses, and I could see there were some individuals that have some comments. But to make comments on that, for example, that are in your questions that we're getting backhanders and like, is quite unfortunate. And as you're aware, the council itself cannot respond because it's not in a position to in that respect. But I can assure you, as I said in my answers, that they are baseless. You're right that the report did have recommendations, but it also noted that from the previous report in 2021 and was through a 5-year plan, that we're making good progress. And I would rather that we focused on the good things that we're doing, and rather than focus on what cannot be achieved. As at the beginning of the report, it was noted that we're in challenging environments. We have had challenges with staffing, but the context of the demands for social care and health is way beyond what we can provide. We are making good efforts towards that. We have had quite a few changeover in staff. We've recruited several of the more members to staff to try and appease some of the demand. We've actually engaged some internal people to support, for example, trust assessors and the like, which is dealing with our health side of things. I could go through quite a few lists of things, and it would take more than just this evening to do that. More than happy to have the discussion with you, but I can assure you that the report is not something that comes lightly. They don't make those comments. The CID don't make those comments without evidence behind it. And I would suggest that the report is more positive and gives us room for identifying areas which we can improve on. And I would expect that from any audit inspection that, we could always improve. But let's be honest now, the point of the question should be that and the report went out with the communication to recognise the benefits of the staff and how they've contributed to the stance that we're in at the moment. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. We move on to question 7 from Councillor Cowp to the Cabinet Member for Education regarding fair funding per pupil from Welsh Government. Councillor Birch, please.
Thank you. Cabinet members and officers are proactively working across a number of organisations and groups, including Welsh Government, the Welsh Local Government Association and the Association of Directors of Education in Wales, and the School Budget Forum, in bringing attention to the acute challenges faced by schools in the Vale of Glamorgan and identifying the impact felt by our staff and pupils. In addition, the Leader of the Council has held a number of discussions with the Minister for Education and Welsh Language, specifically on the matter, as we continue to work in collaboration in identifying a pathway for change on a national level to address disparities emanating from the outdated metrics used in the current formula to distribute education funding across the country. Locally, you will be aware that the Council has consistently funded schools and education above Welsh Government standard spending assessment, despite being the lowest funded authority in Wales in terms of funding per pupil. Officers are working closely with schools to support their ongoing budget setting process during this extremely difficult time. However, every area from the Council is having to contribute to delivering a balanced budget for the Council as required by law.
Councillor Cowp.
Thank you, Chair. Do you feel that you've had any success with the Welsh Government to look at this funding? Because it can't be right that a child in the Vale of Glamorgan gets less money than a child elsewhere. Just wondered how you felt that were you making any progress, really, is what I'm asking.
We're consistently lobbying them in order to see change. I would always like to see more money spent in education, whether we're talking about pupil premiums or we're talking about staff. I will point out that the Vale consistently spends above their IBA for education to support education in schools. And this year, that's 1.87 million above an IBA. We continue to put grants into schools. We put 500,000 in ICT funding direct to schools and 300,000 into the universal free school meals provision, which, as you know, is coming online in the next week. We're the only local authority doing that up to year 6. And the officers and the leader have met with the Vale Governors Association in relation to the budget issues, and they are continuing to press for this. I'm in sympathy, but, you know, we're doing what we can on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, question 8 from Councillor Franks to the Cabinet Member for Education regarding deficit funding for schools. Councillor Birch, please.
Okay, thank you. Schools are currently working through their budget setting process with support of their governing bodies and the financial services from the council. As you're aware, school finances will be particularly difficult this year, given the council's overall position. School budgets are required to be finalised in June, and therefore it is too early to provide the level of detail requested, as budgets have not been finalised while work is underway at school level. Schools continue to be provided with as much financial support as possible, and since being issued their budgets, this includes a further 700,000 delegated to schools in relation to ICT equipment and support for midday supervision and staffing, the Vale's rollout of universal free school meals, for example. I can assure the councillor that I am on a board of governors which has not yet set its budget. It is in the process of doing so, but I could not approaching a final figure by any means at the moment.
Councillor Franks.
Thank you for that reply. I note there is a degree of uncertainty, but surely you must have some indication of the likely level of redundancies in our schools, and in what way are you preparing to support the schools and the staff affected?
No one has made any comments about redundancy so far, and I think we're rather jumping the gun. Some schools will be able to think about natural wastage and so forth, and I think there are other economies that could be made before we go down the redundancy path. And I certainly would not like to be making conjectures about this, particularly as staff would be concerned if I were to do so without evidence.
Thank you, Councillor. Next question, question 9 from Councillor Franks to the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services regarding roads and pavements in the Vale. Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Franks, and this is my reply. The current highway conditions in the Vale Glamorgan are similar to many other areas of the UK and are a result of a combination of prolonged adverse weather, in particular heavy and persistent rainfall, and a lack of investment at national level in major highway servicing and treatment schemes over many years. The recent annual local authority road maintenance alarm survey for the UK 2023 identified local authority teams in England and Wales will only receive on average around 2/3 of the funding they needed to stop our local roads from further deterioration, and that many than 14 billion or 68,000 per every mile of road is now needed to address the backlog of highway repairs. Saying that, this is always the most challenging time of the year for highway defects, and the Council Highways Maintenance Team has engaged a significant number of additional resources for its maintenance contractor, aimed at addressing all the repairs identified that were in my repair intervention. These defects are picked up by highways inspections, which are undertaken at a minimum frequency of every 6 months and via members of the public using our report it feature. With the weather improving, you will see the highway survey condition improve in the next few months. In the longer term, we hope that additional funding will be provided by Welsh Government, particularly since the recent announcement of an end to any new roading projects in Wales. We will continue to encourage residents to call C1V or to use our web-based report it feature if they see a pothole that they consider requires our attention.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Franks.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. I've heard the comment that Welsh Government might indeed allocate additional highway funding. However, time is racing away. Can you indicate when and how much we are likely to receive from Welsh Government.
Thank you very much for your supplementary, Councillor Vines. I cannot as yet do that, but once I know anything, I'm sure you, along with other members, will get communicated. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor. Question 10 from Councillor Franks to the Cabinet Member for Education regarding Estin inspection in Pencoitry School. Councillor Birch, please.
Thank you. Immediately following the inspection, a number of changes were made to the school's senior leadership team in order to address the issues highlighted in the inspection report. These changes included seconding a highly experienced executive head teacher to the school immediately after Christmas, and the appointment of 2 new assistant head teachers, both of whom took up post after the Easter break. In addition, a deputy head teacher has been appointed. He was working at Pencoitry on a secondment basis during the spring term, but is now full-time as a deputy head teacher. In addition to his substantial leadership experience, he is a specialist in additional learning needs and will be leading on this vital aspect of the school's work to bring about the required improvements. There are now clear lines and responsibilities across the senior leadership team and clear lines of accountability, which, as you all know, were points raised in the inspection report. A comprehensive support plan has been developed in conjunction with the school and Central South Consortium to address the recommendations and concerns identified by inspectors, and these have been shared with Estin. Progress will be monitored on a regular basis by local authority officers and the Central South Consortium and Estin, and they will also visit the school on a termly basis to monitor progress against each recommendation. I myself will be receiving regular updates, and if there is information that I could share with you, I will do so.
Councillor Franks.
Thank you. That reply was interesting in its detail. So again, thank you. The reduction in school budgets will surely hinder implementing any school action plan. How much additional finance has been allocated to the school to date?
That's not a question I can answer off the top of my head. I'm happy to provide you with a written response within the next 48 hours.
Thank you very much.
And now question 11 from Councillor Hooper to the Cabinet Member for Community Engagement, Equalities and Regulatory Service regarding flooding events at East Quay. I'm going to ask Councillor Sivanyanam to take this question, but Councillor Franks, if I could ask you to switch your camera off at this point, please. Thank you. Councillor Sivanyanam, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper, for this question. Following the high tide event last month, the site was inspected by the council in its role as the authority on local flood matters, and it was clear that while the water touched the retaining wall below the houses, it was about 2 to 3 metres below the finished floor level of the actual dwellings. Furthermore, there is no evidence or reason to believe that the dwellings have not been built by the consortium of developers in accordance with the approved plans. In respect to the second part of your question, as to future developments around the dockside area, these will be considered against the tests and criteria in the Technical Advice Note 15, which is on the development and flood risk. A new version of TAN is due to come into force later this year, and this is highly likely to continue to require residential developments, for example, to be kept out of high risk flood zones. Planning applications for developments in this area will be subject to consultation, of course, with Natural Resources Wales, who will provide us with the advice on flood risk. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We move on then to question 12 from Councillor Hooper to the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services regarding the parking permit schemes at Barry Island. Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Hooper. This is my reply. I would firstly state that I do not accept that a residential parking permit arrangement for residents living on the permitted streets of Barry Island has not provided them with greater parking opportunities than was previously the case. With no residential parking controls and the recent high demand for visitors at Barry Island, many residents will have seriously struggled to have any consistency of parking close to their homes. if these zones had not been introduced. However, we do recognise that the use of parking zones for streets that are not either cul-de-sacs or in a clearly defined housing development with one road in and out can be problematic, as in the case with Red Brink Crescent. Our officers are currently gathering evidence relating to all the resident permit parking scheme zones previously introduced in various residential areas throughout the Vale in the summer of 21, including Barry Island. The information gathered will be reviewed to determine generally how the schemes have performed and where adjustments may be required to the policy in the future to improve the process. In terms of Barry Island residential permit parking schemes, it is acknowledged that despite complaint signage provision at entry gateways, there are non-compliance issues resulting in significant enforcement demand, and it's anticipated data being compiled will assist in identifying how the scheme can be amended or improved to address these shortcomings in the future. There is a significant amount of data to gather and consider in relation to the Vale-wide review, which resulted in some delay in the process. I can assure you that the review is being progressed with due diligence and is an apparently robust manner to ensure that any future changes reflect the needs of residents generally and are adequate and proportionate to deal with the concerns raised, achieving a good level of self-compliance to help to reduce levels of enforcement patrols. In the case of Barry Island, the review is also considering the detrimental effects the residential zones may have had on local business and community facilities. I currently anticipate that a Cabinet report on this matter will be available before the summer recess. However, thereafter, given the policy and legal requirements associated with any significant changes to the current residential permit parking zone at Barry Island, it's unlikely that any change to the Barry Island scheme will now be achievable this summer. In the meantime, as I have said, whilst accepted, there are some concerns with existing resident parking permit arrangements at Barry Island. It does provide a benefit to residents by controlling the number of visitors parking in the residential neighbourhood around Friars Road and Red Brink Crescent.
Thank you, Councillor. And that brings us to the end of the questions from councillors. We move on to agenda item 14, questions from members of the public. We've received one question from Mr. Curtis to the Executive Leader regarding land adjacent to Hayes Road. Executive Leader, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Curtis, for your question. The land in question is not under the ownership or direct control of the council. The land is currently allocated in the Vale of Glamorgan's adopted local development plan for employment uses under policy MG9. The review of that LDP is currently underway, and the council will be reviewing the appropriateness of existing allocations or whether land should be allocated for alternative purposes or subject to no allocation at all. There was recently a call for candidate sites which invited submissions to propose uses for parcels of land, albeit this land has not been promoted as a nature reserve. The LDP review is the most appropriate process for considering land use allocations or designations, and we're too early in that process to conclude definitively on particular sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Leader. So item 15, any items which the Mayor considers urgent under Part 1 of Council's business? I have none. Item 16, I'm pleased to say I also have no urgent matters under Part 2. So for the final time, it just remains for me to thank members for their attendance and contributions, and I hope you very much enjoy what remains of your evening. Thank you, councillors, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.